Are private flood insurance policies causing you headaches? If so, we may be able to help. Hi, I'm Diane Dean with Bankers Compliance Consulting. If you haven't had a chance to check out our private flood insurance procedures yet, they include a checklist that helps you ensure you're meeting the regulatory requirements. Now, first off, upon receiving a private flood insurance policy for review, we think you're going to want to determine whether that compliance aid statement is present or whether you have a mutual aid society plan. This is going to determine what column on the checklist we're actually going to fall in. So say you've received a private flood insurance policy with the compliance aid statement present. Well, as the column to the left indicates, you can accept that policy without further review. However, as the next column over would indicate, you're not required to. Even with the compliance aid statement present, you can still choose to review that policy to determine if the mandatory acceptance criteria are all met. Now, say you've received a private flood insurance policy without the compliance aid statement present. It's important to note that while we think eventually most of the private flood insurance policies will include that compliance aid statement, there's no requirement that they do. And you could still end up with a private flood insurance policy that you must accept without the compliance aid statement. This is why we have two columns under no compliance aid statement present. If you can check all those boxes under must accept, you still have a private flood insurance policy that you must accept. However, say you have a private flood insurance policy that you can't check all those boxes, but it's still one you're comfortable with and would like to accept. Well, if you can check all the boxes under may accept, including it's issued by a licensed, admitted, or otherwise approved insurer, it provides safety and soundness protection, and you've documented that in writing, and it covers both the mortgagor and mortgagee, you can choose to accept the private flood insurance policy. Now, say you've received a policy from a mutual aid society. You can choose to accept such a policy if it meets the criteria on the far right-hand column. In other words, it provides sufficient safety and soundness protection, and you've again documented that in writing. It covers both the mortgagor and the mortgagee, and your regulator has approved it as flood insurance. Now, it's important to note that whichever column you're in, you can ignore those boxes that are marked NA. Now, what is with all the additional information in the footnotes? Well, much like our real estate matrix, we see this checklist probably as best printed as a front and back document, or at least as 2 pages. The footnotes or the numbers on the front direct you to additional information on the second page or the back. For instance, the little number 1 with compliance aid statement refers you to the back where we have exactly what that statement is. If you look at the number 2, it hopefully clarifies the confusion around these surplus lines insurers, that in fact they are acceptable for both residential and non-residential properties. Now, we know many of you are not insurance experts. Unfortunately, this rule almost requires you to become one. Take number 3. You're asked to check a box whether a private policy defines flood like an SFIP does. I don't know about you, but that doesn't do much for me. So again, on the back, we tried to give you additional information on how an SFIP defines a flood. There's no way we could give you all the information you need to compare a private flood insurance policy to an SFIP, but we've hopefully at least given you a good start. Now, we know that procedures are highly variable among institutions. For that reason, feel free to take these procedures, add to them, revise them, however you see fit. Our goal is to give you a workable solution.